Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast YouTube channel. My name is Samaria, and I'm joined by my best friend and co host Miosha. And today we're reviewing Married at First Sight, season 17, episode 15. But before we get
hmm
into the episode, please make sure that you are subscribed to our channel. Give this video a thumbs up, and of course, meet us in the comments to let us know your thoughts about the couples this episode. All right. We're going to start with Becca and Austin because they weren't a huge part of this episode. I feel like,
No, because they were visiting his family. Did they say Philadelphia? I feel like it was.
oh, interesting. I don't know why I had Indiana in my head.
Oh, I think wherever George Washington's house is. I feel like it's on the East Coast.
It
I
has
don't know.
to be. It would have to be on the East Coast. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah, not like it matters. But yeah, so they go to visit his family. We don't hear much about, I guess, what their thoughts are of Becca, the relationship, or anything. We just see these random clips of them checking in. I don't have anything from their trip. Then they
at
make it
all.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we get from their trip is when they come back. And so
hmm
apparently Austin feels like he did good. He feels like he did fine. And Becca's like, no, intimacy pretty much came to a halt and there was nothing going on. And she felt like they had taken some steps back. So, what did you think about that conversation?
So they sit down the day before Dr. Pia meets with them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is almost, I guess, him checking in to make sure that she's not going to drop any bombs. So I'm thinking, well, why would you think that?
Has he been talking to Brennan?
Okay.
And they
um,
probably talked about that whole situation too, that Emily dropped a bomb on Brennan while they were, speaking of
mhm.
Dr. Pia. So yeah.
So I was like, okay, what are you doing? So in that conversation, he's like, oh, well, we just haven't had time because he was like, oh, how are things going? What are you thinking? And then he's like, oh, but we haven't had time. I guess they had that romantic night. I guess they played with some handcuffs, but nothing happened with it. And in that whole sit down, she was just kind of looking like at him like, like her energy just seemed like, yeah, whatever, dude.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought I was gonna sneeze. Um,
He's like,
but I agree. And I think I wrote down that in that scene, it seems like Becca has finally pulled back, not in
hmm
the way that he wants because she's still bringing up the whole intimacy thing.
yeah.
But I think she realizes I've said so much and I've put forth the effort. He's not meeting me where I am, and I just need to fall all the way back.
Yeah, because I think she said something to the effect of, oh, well, I'll just like take your lead or
Mhm.
however you want to move things forward. And I think that's how it should be at this point. So he just basically wanted to check in before Dr. Pia. So there wouldn't be any bombs. But because y'all haven't made any progress,
Yeah.
how else do you think it's going to go?
Okay, so do we want to get to the Dr. Pia
hmm
conversation now? Because Austin was also on the after party, so I'll talk a little bit
hmm
about that after. But she said that she wished there was like more flirting or more interest when they were around family. And I kind of get that, not in the sense of like, oh, you're walking past me and you're gonna smack me on my booty or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
nothing like that, but just like a check-in, hey, how are you feeling about everything? Um, a touch here and there. Like it could just be a tap on the shoulder or what, I don't know,
hmm
just some type of interaction that shows, oh, we are a couple.
We're
Don't just
married.
like, yeah, like don't ice me out, because it could be a joke, if anything, like something.
Yeah. And I don't, because we didn't hear much about how things went as far as how the family, I guess, took knowing that he got married at first sight, or we didn't hear anything. And so, yeah, I understand her perspective of like, okay, I understand I'm meeting your family, but we're not friends. We're already married. Decision day is coming up. Um, and the fact that he brought her with him,
There,
why bring her all the way there to then? get there and act like friends.
I as someone who's not a PDA person, I want to relate to what Austin is feeling because, like
Yeah, maybe that's not his vibe.
exactly, but because this is so consistent with who he is away from his family, I don't want to give him I don't want to make it easy for him, like
Yeah.
and even if you're not a PDA person, like how closely you sit next to the person, or like I said, joking with the person, being playful with them, in the presence of other people. I don't know. There's just he says he doesn't understand intimacy without like physical. And I don't know that
Mm.
he really doesn't get it, or he's just maybe he thought going to his family would give him a break from these conversations. And so he really took a break from those conversations.
Yeah. And then, he's like, "Oh, well, while I was there, I was sick. I had these allergy flare-ups and I could barely breathe." Okay, if you're that allergic to the cats, why not get a hotel? It was probably for a weekend. I don't know. But he was just, I guess, so swollen, so sick. I'll take his word for it. But even the way that he was explaining it,
Hmm.
if I were her, I would be annoyed.
Hmm.
Just because it's like, okay, we get it, but that's not the real reason why the intimacy is lacking.
Yeah, it's not.
So,
It's not. If there
and
were,
nobody expects you to be doing the most at grandma's house. We
I don't
get
even think
that.
Becca does. Like, not even Becca expects that.
Like, we understand, okay, have respect for your family,
Yes.
but now is, oh, because we're visiting family. Oh, because of the cats. But
Yeah.
what about when you at home? I mean,
So if we could talk about the after party just a
mhm,
little bit, we'll talk more about it when we get to the next couple. But um, he was given these excuses on the after party as well, like, oh yeah, I could
mm,
barely talk. And so Emily, who was on one during the after party, for those who didn't watch, she was not letting anything go. She's like, intimacy could look so many different ways and you weren't even like paying attention to her. It seemed like she was there to fight all the battles. She came with her sword. um
mhm,
I think of Derek Jackson's ex-wife, because she's like, I got my helmet of salvation. Like Emily came here ready for battle. And so,
mhm,
she was calling him out. She's like, and I mean, have you never heard of Benadryl? Like, couldn't you pop a Benadryl or something? And so, Keisha Knight Pulliam was also saying, like, I've never known of allergies necessarily to stop a man who was very interested in creating that type of environment. So, like you said, maybe like a hotel or something, figuring it out. But yeah, he was giving those excuses too, and he said they had an argument that he
oh,
thinks
yeah.
led
But
into
they
this.
about the music and all that.
Yeah, so I guess his dad and I think his uncle, another male family member, are completely deaf. So he was there playing the music, and Becca didn't think that was the space for it. So they were upset with each other. And so he gave that excuse as well. And both Emily and Keisha Napoleon were like, yeah, this wasn't about the music. Like it wasn't the
Mm-mm.
straw that broke the camel's back. This has been happening over time. And maybe the music was annoying to her, but it was annoying because it was that on top of you're not giving her attention. Like, I don't need us to be in the bedroom doing XYZ, but can you pay me attention at least? Can you be affectionate towards me? Like, I don't know, bring me if you're grabbing dessert, bring me some like, oh hey, I got you this, or you know, eh,
Mhm.
maybe it's not clicking for him for real, or maybe he's just trying to fool us.
So, I feel like it was last week's episode, it may have even been the week before, where I saw a comment that said, "Oh, I'm surprised you ladies didn't maybe talk about it could be his sexuality or he's not into women or whatever the case may be."
Mhm.
Before that comment, I hadn't thought about it because I guess nothing else about him. I guess I wouldn't think to question it if I haven't seen any or heard anything a bit more concrete.
Mm,
But I will say, after reading that comment, time passes. I just want him to either say, hey, I'm just not into her, or whatever the reason is, give the reason, at least off camera, so she
Mhm.
can check out mentally, emotionally, uh, or just say something like, oh, if you don't go that way, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But just say something so that she's not so frustrated and she doesn't continue to question herself and, her desirability as a result of how you're acting. So,
Yeah. Other comments were saying like maybe he's intimidated by her because she's so sex forward, and maybe he's
mm,
inexperienced.
yeah,
And
that
in that
too.
case too, you do need to communicate that with the partner. But I think long story short, Austin doesn't see a long term with Becca. I think
Mm-mm.
that's what it is, from the religion to the sexuality to the all. I just don't think she's it for him. I think he's cool with her, but this is your spouse. Like, it needs to be more than, oh, we cool, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever know. He might end up taking this one to the grave and just say no on decision day.
I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to the what's the finale called when they meet with Kevin?
Oh, the
Reunion.
reunion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm like, if Kevin could ask the right questions, maybe we'll get more information because this group seems more
Mm.
ready to share.
Maybe if we had Keisha on the reunion, we'd get more.
I feel like we probably would. Yeah, I feel like we
We could
probably.
wish.
Anyways,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
That was all I have on them. I can't even remember the advice Dr. Pia gave. I don't think she gave any.
Yeah, I
Do
don't have
you?
anything on here.
Yeah, Becca just said, "Oh, she wants to move forward sexually," and that was it. Yeah,
No.
yeah, no advice.
All right.
Terrible.
Moving around. She's probably like, these they can't be helped. I'm sure she gave advice. They probably just didn't show it, but I
Yeah,
mean, it's like what, 10 days to decision at this point. If you ain't got it, you not gonna get
don't
it.
get it. It's a wrap.
Okay, shall
All
we
right.
move on to Emily and Brennan? And then we could talk about Emily on the after party. Please start typing your thoughts already on Emily on the after party if you watched it. And if you
Mm-hmm.
haven't, there should be clips floating around somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where. I
On
know
YouTube, you should be
on
able to
YouTube.
find clips. If you didn't record it that night, I don't know if you'll be able to find it, but like
Yeah.
the full length, yeah.
All right. So Emily and Brennan.
Hmm.
At the beginning of the episode, he says, I care about you. Losing you would suck. No emotion whatsoever. He said it so matter of fact, like, yeah, I care about you. Losing you would suck. Can you make me know that you care about me? Like, you got to convince me. You got to give me an
But
argument and a conclusion about how you care about me
but the follow up was he doesn't want to blur the lines of friendship and a romantic relationship.
on a show called Married at First Sight.
I'm sorry. Them in this talking stick exercise, I don't think y'all have an issue with listening to that extent. I don't know.
Mhm.
Him holding the paddle, the optics of it, just, I wasn't here for it. Mm-mm.
It's not about listening. I appreciated Emily saying that she worries about losing herself. Like, yeah, I could give more, but then I'm not even going to be recognizable anymore. I'm glad that she
Mm-mm.
spoke up and said something outside of the meetings with Dr. Pia, especially about her making all the efforts not being a healthy situation for her. I don't think he cares. Like, I think she's talking to a brick
Mm.
wall. But it's just nice as an audience member to know that she's thinking through these things and she's not completely bamboozled. I think she's a little bit delusional in that she thinks they have chemistry, but she feels like there were mixed signals being thrown.
Yeah, but she even called out his behavior at the wedding. So it
Mhm.
wasn't just the editing, it wasn't just something we were seeing. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it was Claire who, went and said something to her about, oh, he act like he don't even want to be here with
It
you.
had
We
to be
saw it
clear.
too.
It had to be clear. Like, who else would say that? And Claire's like, I don't have a marriage, so I can say whatever. But they still keep wanting me to film, so I'm gonna say
I'm
something.
here. Yeah. So
Uh,
yeah, even his behavior at the wedding, he looked annoyed. It wasn't that of a friend. And then he sat there and was trying to gaslight her as if the way he was acting was okay.
Brendan probably has a girlfriend who watches this show.
He's like, "See, I didn't even touch her."
Right, when he said the whole blur the lines between friendship and relationship, I'm like, okay, he for sure has a girlfriend and he knows she's gonna watch this, so he has to be very careful and be like, see, babe, I only went there for the followers, or I only went there for my career.
And to think of it, even on the honeymoon, I don't know if I ever saw them kiss on the lips. I
Mm-mm.
think it was just a forehead kiss.
Forehead,
So if he does have a girlfriend at home, he's acted and told the lines very well.
I guess. I don't even want to
Mm-mm-mm.
compliment him on anything. But when they were talking and he goes, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I was like, "What is that about?" Like, it's just so scary.
And when he was like the way he was like holding the paddle too.
Yeah.
It's
Are you
like,
sure you want to
dude,
do
that
this?
doesn't look good.
I'm doing it, ain't I? Like, yeah, I want to do it. So
Mm-mm.
at the end of this conversation, what tripped me out was that he says, as long as we're happy with one another, that's all that matters. And I was like, didn't she just spend the whole like 10, 15, 20, however long y'all were sitting there talking about how unhappy she was with you and with your situation? So, how is that the concluding statement that you would make?
Because he was just trying to focus on the fact that she called out that a friend or people were telling her, "Hey, this doesn't look right the way that y'all are interacting." But yeah, it was a silly way to sum it up because she said a lot more than that. And I understand where her frustration is coming from because she's saying it,
Mhm.
but he's ignoring it, which is even more reason why she just needs to move on. So,
And I don't even think she was saying like, "Oh, I care so much what people think." It's like, no, it's not just me seeing this. Other people are seeing it and commenting it, and it bothers me that it's just so evident that not only can I see it, but other people can see it and call it out and know that I'm not being treated the way that maybe I would have hoped to be treated in a marriage.
yep, he's trying to confuse her.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, I put down, I think Claire was the one who said she can't even see a friendship, because she mentioned that in their talk later on too that they had, like the one with her and Claire. I didn't write down a whole bunch of notes on that because why is Claire still here? But
Yeah.
I'm sure probably.
Which I have thoughts on even her and Claire being as close as they are.
Ooh, what are the thoughts? I want to know.
I don't know, like, not that I want Emily and Brennan to work out, but Claire, just be a listening ear at this point
Mm,
because y'all met through this show. Y'all aren't really friends like that. Like, I understand the friend that she did the FaceTime with. I think her name was Kenzie or Mackenzie.
mm,
Okay, give her the real, this is your friend. Y'all have been friends. Claire, I don't know, just even of what I've seen of her and Cameron and that whole thing, it's just like, just be a listening ear. If she wants to run her mouth about her husband, let her do it. But I
hmm.
don't know. It's, mhm.
I think to just like make it consistent, anytime a divorced couple is supposed to be giving advice on this show, not in real life. Like, because obviously you could have friends who are experienced and they're giving you advice and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But on this show, I don't necessarily like to see people who got married at first sight and got a divorce like a week or two later being the ones who are giving advice or speaking into
Yeah.
people's marriages. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Claire has malicious intent or
At
anything,
all.
and they could be hitting her up to film because they're,
They don't have
grasping
any.
for straws. They don't have much else. So I get all that, but at the same time, the same way I don't want to see Orion, I don't really want to see Claire in these scenes either.
Okay. But yeah, I think she was definitely walking on eggshells in the conversation with him. So let's go into their Pastor Cal visit. For one, I loved Emily's top. Oh, I'm
Mhm.
so sorry. We have a someone commented, I think it was Treasure, but she doesn't watch the show this season, but she does watch our reviews. And she was like, "Can y'all show the pictures of these people?" So
Oh, yeah,
I've
yeah,
already failed you because we didn't show you Becca and Austin. But let me see if I can pull up a picture of Emily and Brennan so you can at least see it
yeah,
from my phone. We don't edit these videos, like we record them and put them right up so that we can
mhm.
get them out in time and also like honor our other commitments in life.
Yeah.
So that's why, but I will pull up an image.
But, yeah, so while you're pulling that up, we
Yeah.
can kinda get into their conversation with Pastor Cal, which he's just like, "These 2." So Emily says she's committed to him in the process and willing to do what needs to be done to make this work.
Hmm.
Um, that leads into Pastor Cal showing them their initial interviews,
Right.
which I was happy about. It was almost like he came in like, listen, ain't nothing
I
else
got
gonna work,
receipts.
but for y'all to see, you know,
The
how this
receipt.
whole thing started. Nobody, Brendan, nobody begged
Ignore
you to
my
be
phone. My
here.
phone is a raggedy. It's my screen protector, y'all. It's not the phone itself. But this is Emily and Brennan.
We'll use the iPad next
Yeah,
time.
next time I'll get
Uh,
mine. That was a mess.
anyways,
Yes, so Pastor Cal.
yeah, so he shows them their initial interview. Emily
Continue.
basically was saying a lot of the same things that she said up front.
Hmm.
Watching back her interview, I would still stand by. I think I said this early on. I don't think she should have been picked for this process having no
Never.
relationship experience.
Hmm.
Just because I think it put her at a disadvantage to even compare, like, oh, this is what a healthy relationship feels like. This is what an unhealthy one. It's just this is her first go round, and there's a lot of pressure, I think, for her to really want to make this work. Maybe so she doesn't feel like a failure. She don't have much to compare it against.
But you know
So
she's competitive. That soccer training isn't fully out of her head.
doesn't want to lose.
Yeah.
Um, and then we get to Brennan's.
Girl. No, before we get to Brendan's, Pastor Cal said, "So what do you think about that?" And Brendan goes, "Yeah, it's the same girl sitting right next
Oh
to me."
yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah, so I would say she's pretty consistent, wouldn't you?" Because remember in Dr. Pia's meeting, Brennan had said that he needed consistency or something like that. So
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, Pastor Cal knew exactly what he was doing. He said, "Oh, you want to talk about inconsistent? One of these things is not like the other, Brennan. You were one way in your footage, and she was completely the same, as she is
Hmm.
now." So I just wanted to point out that Pastor Cal threw a little shade, and it was appreciated.
Yeah, and I want to ask you this real quick. You could just
Okay.
give me a real quick answer because we didn't watch the matchmaking special, right? So, of what you saw of his energy in his interview, just his energy, not what he was saying,
Yeah.
would you have picked him?
He didn't seem interested.
He didn't seem interested, and not only that, he said something in that where he was like, "Oh, I can have an emotional tone or I can be emotional in my tone, but I'm not actually."
Mm.
I'm sorry. If I would have heard that, I'd have been
Okay.
like,
This ain't it.
this ain't it. Okay.
Girl, he had the audacity to say, I'm extremely coachable. I'm extremely coachable. And this is where y'all got to interview people's family and friends. But he probably doesn't even have many friends to interview. What about Brenna Gibbs coachable? Coachable in what?
From the guy who won't even let his wife barely get out a few words before he's asking her, like, are you sure this is what you want to do? No, no, no. Don't say that. Don't say that.
You know what I think is like I'm obvious I'm nobody's dating like expert or anything like that.
Yeah.
But this is something that I think is very important before getting into a relationship with someone is seeing how they receive feedback.
Hmm.
Like when I give you feedback on something small, oh, this mac and cheese might need a little bit more cheddar, or it might need a little bit more salt in it. I don't know.
It's a little bland.
It's a little bland. Like, when I give you that feedback, how are how are you reacting to that? Or when I say, "Oh, you pulled out the chair this way. Next time, can you pull it out a different way? These are silly examples, but how do you accept that feedback? For me, that's something very important. Just having seen people who, whenever you give them feedback, they want to criticize something about you. And it's like, whoa, I
Mhm.
wasn't even trying to critique you. I just prefer that if we're going to be in relationship with each other, friendship, sibling, whatever, I just need to be able to say, hey, this thing bothers me, and can you do it differently next time? So it
Oh,
doesn't,
yeah. If you can't handle the little critiques,
yeah.
what about the big ones? Yeah.
I just want to say that, in case there's a younger sis watching this and she's in the dating streets,
Mhm.
that's my little advice. I don't have much, but that's a little nugget.
Oh, but yeah,
Okay.
Emily says, actually, no, there's a lot of dissimilarities.
Because he said, I'm loving and affectionate. Where? Where are you loving and affectionate? To whom? To yourself?
What did she say? Oh, it seems like he bought his A game for the interview. And
I
to me, it wasn't even the A game. I still don't know how this guy,
wasn't
nothing about his energy and vibe gives warm and inviting, even in that interview.
at all. At all. Honestly, not many of the guys. Like I could see how Orion could seem warm and inviting in an interview.
Or even Michael,
Oh, for sure.
um,
Yeah.
and, who else? Austin is just kinda goofy. Uh, I don't know.
I don't
Yeah.
know about Austin. Austin is a big. I will say he held himself very like together very well on the after party because you could
Mm,
clearly tell like Emily was coming for him because Becca wasn't on the show, and it seemed like she took it upon herself to be the spokesperson for Becca and to call him out and say, "Well, no, that's not right because she told us, and that's not right because you know." And I think he held himself together very well. Like he didn't seem frazzled by it. He didn't seem bothered by it. He at one point was like, I definitely agree with you, and I eventually did take the Benadryl. Like he wasn't giving her
mhm.
anything, and I appreciate a mature response when there's someone who clearly has a chip on on their shoulder. And I like Emily,
Mhm.
but she absolutely did. But anyway, back to Emily
The
and Brennan.
He handled her on the after party like Brennan should have her friends with the wigs,
Oh my god.
but Brennan was like,
Oh my
"I
god.
don't have time for this foolishness."
He's like, oh, you bring it. He said, "You bring in energy, I would bring energy squared." I don't know.
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So she said the dissimilarities thing. I wrote
Mhm.
down Emily from her description wanted a guy who was just like kind. And kindness is a very important quality, in my opinion. So, from everything she described, she just wanted a kind guy. And Brennan does not give kindness, even if he gives like, diplomatic or um, having the right answers or whatever. Like
Mhm.
he, nothing about him gives off, I am kind hearted. And I hate to say that because we
Mhm.
don't know these people personally, but of what I've seen, nothing about him gives off kind.
That and I think if he liked her,
Hmm.
I think we may see a bit more kindness, but I think for him, not to excuse it, I think he doesn't like her. He's
Hmm.
also upset at the fact that she won't keep up this facade in front of
Hmm.
the cameras and the experts. So I think, yeah, he's not a kind person, but I think it's also that he don't like her and she won't play both sides. So he wants to be able to get through this process, keep his reputation intact, not have real conversations in front of the experts. And also let her know, like, don't get no hope that this could actually work out. But at the same time, he'll say, oh, well, if she's open to going deeper, I am too. Sure.
Yeah, that's so interesting to me. Another thing that was interesting was that he didn't seem to have any of the smoke that he has for I was gonna say Pastor Pia for that he has for
Mhm.
Dr. Pia
I
with
wonder what
Pastor
it is
Cal.
about Dr. Pia.
I wonder what's the difference between a Pastor Cal and say a Dr. Pia.
I will say though,
Hmm.
I feel like Dr. Pia was very direct in her questions. I think
Hmm.
in those sessions, Emily was speaking up, and anytime Brennan tried to silence her, Dr. Pia was kind of putting him in his place, like, no, this is what you're not going to do. So I don't know if it's she's more direct or maybe she came in asking certain questions and digging deeper versus Pastor Cal. Like the way that he showed the footage was his way of like
Don't even say
shading the
nothing.
yeah, shading him without saying too much, you know? And
So you
I can't even remember his session with Dr. Pepper, but
so you're saying like you think Pastor Cal came in a more like authoritative way? Like,
maybe not authoritative, but he didn't say too much. He didn't have any advice other than the oh, this is not friends at first sight. He was just like, no, I'm gonna show you how you showed up initially, and clearly you've been different. And he let Emily say the rest.
mm-hmm,
Versus I think the sessions with Dr. Pia, Emily was making all these faces and she clearly was uncomfortable. And Dr. Pia is like, yeah, girl, spit it out, spill the tea.
mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Who knows?
I think it could also very likely be Pastor Cal is a man. And
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
uh, I appreciated the conversation Emily had with her friend later on. And her friend asked this question. She goes, what does he do to make himself valuable to you?
You don't.
And usually, because that gives off like a, oh, what does he bring to the table about? Usually, I wouldn't be here for that type of a question, but I think that's a question Emily needs because you're over here trying to make sure that you abide by his rules and that you do these things and that. And I think her friend just wants her to see like he's not offering you anything.
Mm-mm. She
He's
just
not,
happy to have a man.
yeah. And
This is where her lack of experience. And I will say, I'm not saying that Emily is perfect. There are a few things about her I think could use some areas of she could use some improvement. But I think the way that he's treating her, it doesn't seem justified.
mhm.
If you don't want to be in the process, just don't be in the process anymore. Um, yeah.
He's nitpicking everything she does. Okay, so Emily on the after party. Here are my
Mm,
thoughts. I think one, we're coming off of the last episode where she and Keisha had that little thing where, you could tell that she clearly felt like she wasn't let off the hook
mhm.
anything and reacted to that, right? So I think we're coming off of that. Every single time someone else had something to say, she would interject and be like, "Well, I just think, like even down to her asking Austin, well, why won't you just sleep with her?" Now, that is a question that I don't think anybody has the right to ask anybody else. If I wanted to sleep with someone or didn't want to sleep with someone, that's none of your business. We talked about it a little bit before we started recording, and we also would like to know why you won't sleep with
We
Becca.
want to know.
We
I want to
want to
know.
know.
We want to know.
But
So
you don't
honestly,
ask.
I keep asking. Mm.
No, you did not ask that question. Miosha, I was trying to get to the opposite point. You don't ask anybody that.
I know, I know.
Oh, man.
We want to know, but we don't want to know.
Yeah, like
Mm.
he clearly is
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And I did think it was rude of her to ask him that. I think, you know, we wouldn't want a woman being asked that
Oh
question.
yeah.
Not to say that men and women are always the same. And, like it's we live in a society where that's not the case. But I think if it's something that we would not ask a woman in this case, so many times men are expected to be one way sexually, and that's just not
Hmm.
everybody's story. So we can't just be throwing questions out there. We
Yeah.
don't know what his history is, if there are things that have made him how he like we don't know. And so I did not appreciate her asking him that question. I think she has a chip on her shoulder, and
Hmm.
rightfully so because this process did her so dirty. But I think a part of maturity is realizing like, okay, I took the L's and I can hold people accountable who did things to me, but you're not the one who has to now go and rectify Austin's situation because like he's
It's
been
not her business.
it's not your business and he's treated Becca well. He's not trying to sleep with her. He's not trying to be a good he hasn't been a good husband to her, but like person to person, he hasn't disrespected her, hasn't been unkind to her, you know? Um,
Mhm.
and so yeah, I think she needs to mature and know how to handle these types of situations because she clearly felt like since I didn't get left off the hook, ain't nobody getting left off the hook. Like I'm gonna ask the questions that maybe she feels like Keisha Knight Pulliam should have asked. That's
Mm.
how it came off to me.
Yeah, and I think it's actually doing her a disservice because
Yes.
for me, what I'm seeing on the episode, that's the episode versus you showing up on the after parties,
Mm.
just doing the most is not helping you in terms of like your image, which she maybe doesn't care about, but I'm able to separate the two and clearly she feels a way about the process, the people involved. I saw someone saying where the women are all wearing pink every week except for
Yes.
Chloe.
Yes. I don't
So
think they like Chloe. On last week's after party, and honestly, as a viewer, I don't know that I like Chloe.
oh
We'll
Lord,
get to
no.
it. I didn't want to say it, but I'm just like something feels off to me. Okay, but
Mm,
I think they're either they're wearing it on the after party, either breast cancer related. I think someone said this
mm,
filmed in October, but I wouldn't
hmm.
understand how. But also, like, the show airs on Wednesday. And so someone else was saying like it's an ode to Mean Girls. On Wednesdays we wear pink. Have you seen Mean Girls?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, but I didn't
so
think they would wear pink for that reason, but okay.
I don't know what it is.
Mm,
One of the above. If you have proof that it's one thing or the other, please let us
mhm,
know in the comments. If someone, one of them has said something or whatever. But they clearly don't like Chloe because last week on the episode, you you could tell that Lauren was doing everything she could not to be negative. And at certain points, when Chloe would make a joke or something, she would just sit there, blank face.
oh,
And at certain points, she would be rolling her eyes at what Chloe might have said. And so I don't know if Chloe did something, like siding with the men in some way. I think I read that somewhere on the internet, but you never know.
what?
Yeah, siding with the men and thinking like, oh, the husbands were right in the instances with their wives. That maybe made her stand out as not a girl's girl. Because that's important for us women. Like,
Hmm.
why you always on the other side, like why you always think they're right and never us? Yeah. So
Yeah, the process is also different for her.
she
She
came in.
was she
Yeah.
came in later. She was the
Mhm.
second bride, didn't get a full honeymoon. Yeah, it's been different for her. So, I don't know. I hope that it's not any real beef. Could it be the age difference too? Where
I think
she's
mm,
39, they're more late 20s, early 30s. So is there a generation difference as well?
and it also could be like, oh well, if I had your husband, I would be, like there
Mm,
could be that type of a vibe too, or I don't know. I don't know what it
hmm,
is. This is all speculation, but
yeah.
someone else said, "Oh, well, she's a minimalist, so maybe she just didn't want to buy new pink things." And that would be fair as well. But why do they clearly not like her? It's
Yeah. Oh, okay. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But
mm.
I feel like that was all we have on Emily. She showed up doing too much. Brennan, the usual.
And Emily, I get it, but this is not the way because now you're lashing out on everybody but the person who you should be lashing out at. and that's just never the appropriate.
Yeah.
That's never the appropriate way to go about this. I feel bad for her, but girl, you gotta grow up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Michael and Chloe, the newest couple. Hmm.
Somebody on Twitter said they talk too doggone much.
I mean, honestly, the way the talking they were doing on their honeymoon, it's kind of what I would expect a bit,
You know, Yosha,
but I don't know.
if there's any couple that yeah, if there's any couple that I feel like, oh, they're actors, it's them.
Like plants, like I suggested initially.
Sure. Sure. I'll let
No,
you.
yeah, you thought I was so crazy. I'm like, okay.
Yes, I think so. Everything feels so staged. Um, Even her like crying moment at the end of the episode. Um,
Wait, okay, you jumping ahead. You
I know.
jumping
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
She
sorry.
got so much to say about Chloe. Okay. So they wake up from their first night.
Mhm,
She says that she has these panic attacks. She
mhm,
has four. She said it's normal, but she's never had, I guess, four back to back. Um, I don't know if it was that it was hitting her in her sleep, like, oh my gosh, I married a stranger. She's in a stressful environment.
mhm.
Okay.
And were they panic attacks? Because I feel like a lot of times people say stuff like, "Oh yeah, I had a panic attack," and panic attacks are serious, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the like overuse of certain words and or certain phrases, and panic attack that's one of them. And so I'm like, were they panic attack or was she just like waking up out of her sleep?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted some clarity on that. Like, oh, is this a serious or just using panic attacks for she was jumping out?
Yeah, yeah. The way he described it, I don't know. I think we just may have to take her word for it. She says she's
Mm,
had them before and
mm,
it
yeah.
only happens in her sleep. So they're getting ready to go to their honeymoon and Michael has his whole closet. I don't have a problem with it. Options,
Right.
baby.
Okay, but
Not my fault. Not my fault. You only got two outfits. But then given how short it was, it's like
into Colorado Springs, which is also in Colorado,
it's
which
not
is
that
where they
far.
live. I was like, okay,
Hmm.
baby, you doing too much. But Michael was over there loading his wife's luggage, and I'm like, Kim, are you taking notes of how this man? She's just standing there, and he's the one who's doing the hard labor.
Hmm.
Okay. So, okay. He asked her a question when they made it to the top of the whatever place they were hiking. I wish we would
Hmm.
have seen more of it because she was like, "Oh, I was just so scared and so frightened," but we didn't really see the journey. We didn't see him like really calming her and supporting her. Do you feel like we saw enough of that?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so yeah, we
Now
just
it could be because of what they were doing, like they couldn't get the camera crew like with them. Like they had their mics.
but they
They were
usually have those things on their head,
those things,
like the
yeah. Oh,
things.
the GoPro, yeah.
Okay,
I
that's
just assumed that it was because they didn't want to bring the camera crew hiking and on the tightrope thing and all that.
maybe,
Um,
but we'll take their word for it that as well.
mm,
So she was really afraid, but she was still looking over the thing. Um, and he asked a great question. I thought he said like, "What support type are you, or
mhm.
do you need, or something like that? Like, do you need me to be a physical support, like holding you? Is it verbal support?" And I'm like, "Oh, somebody needs to get a quiz together around that." Around that
Mhm.
question, like what support type, really resonates with you?
And I felt that way a few times about the questions he was posing to her,
Mm,
where I'm like, okay, yeah, if you're just meeting someone, you're trying to lay a good foundation. Like of all the other couples, it was like, okay, Orion and Lauren were too serious. Becca and Austin were goofing around too much. It was like, find that middle ground. Now, I'm not saying I'm fully sold on them. I'm saying I appreciated the questions he was asking,
Mhm.
and kind of like steering the conversation, I appreciate it. I'm like, yeah, this makes sense to ask someone you just met.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm completely buying it either. And I didn't want to feel that way. So like all through my notes, I'm like, oh well, I'm giving excuses. And I'm like, maybe it's because they're just a little bit older than the other people. So of course they would be having much more mature conversations, like support type and all of that. But it does seem like maybe I'm missing chemistry, or maybe it just hasn't built, or I'm not sure, but something just feels in every scene like it's missing. I don't know.
You know, with I feel like physically they're both independently nice looking people, but the vibes are just so different.
Hmm.
Not even just on the whole minimalist and oh, he's into fashion, but more so like the way that they look. I get from her Hallmark Christmas movie vibes,
Hmm.
suburban vibes. From him, I get eclectic, I don't know, just outside of the box. I don't I don't know if I would see them together.
I feel like they've tried to sell us this story that opposites attract, and I think in some ways, yes. Um, but not often. Like it's not as often as they're making it say. There's this Disney movie that came out where I guess these two characters were friends or interested in each other. It's a kids movie, so probably just
Mhm.
friends. But one came from a water family
Oh,
and the
yeah.
other one was from a fire family. And they were, I guess, supposed to get their two families to just like mix well with each other. And it's like, do y'all know that one cancels out the other? Like, there is such a thing as being too opposite, so much so that you aren't
Yeah,
cohesive.
their vibes are just very different. But she did say something. She said the questions this was towards the end, the questions, uh, that I've had to answer and the way that I've opened up, I don't
Mhm,
think I ever have in a relationship. So while they may be similar age, same age basically, she says she hasn't been in a relationship in a long time. Those other relationships didn't progress but for so far.
mm.
So, I don't know. Like, yeah, they may be the same age, but maybe their level of experience in dating may be different. I don't know. The vibes are just very different. When she was like, "Oh, I like your tattoos and your hair and
Yeah,
all of
because
that."
she's never dated anyone with tattoos. And that's the thing, like they're at an age where, they're still young, but they're also settled. And so it's like, okay, if you've never dated somebody with this look before, is that something that is appealing to you? Like you know yourself well enough at this point to know. Is that something that's appealing to you?
She says she doesn't mind it. I mean, I feel like with them at this point, we just have to keep taking what they say, I guess, at
I
face
feel like
value
Emily.
until I know, right? Unt until we see otherwise, but, I mean, she was saying all the right things, or, "Oh, I don't mind it," or, "Oh," even when they were headed to the hiking, she called out how his headband matched his shoes or something about that. Yeah, so she says she doesn't mind it. Then they go to the massage
Wait,
thing.
was
Oh,
the
go
massage thing before the dinner? Because the dinner where he said that he hadn't told his mom yet.
Ooh, I didn't write down if it was, I think it was after. It
You
was after.
do? Okay, I read it down before, but we can go.
Girl, it don't matter.
Okay, let's talk about the mom thing and then we'll go
Yeah.
to the massage therapist. How do you feel about him not telling? Okay, yes, I'll ask you. Sorry. How do you feel about him not telling his mom about it?
Okay, so I'm torn. I
Okay.
understand not telling her if she already wasn't here for the process, how
Mhm.
you got left at the altar.
Yeah.
What didn't make sense to me is if you said that your mom and sister are best friends, are you close enough with your sister to trust that she wouldn't tell your mom?
Interesting.
Not saying that she would, but I was like, that she could slip and say something, not even
Mhm.
on purpose. So I don't know. That didn't really make sense to me. So I understood that. But from Chloe's perspective, I don't know. That's not good news for me to hear that your mom was already against the process and you haven't told her. I wouldn't want to go into a marriage or a situation where, my mother-in-law is already feeling a way about whatever, and it was outside of my control. And I will say, I know initially I said, "Ooh, I don't think they should tell her. I don't think they should tell her." Now I'm like, nah, they should have given her the choice to say yay or nay. I want to be the second bride or not. So I'm walking back what I initially said. I think they should have given her the option, uh, because it is a different situation than had she had been the first. So,
Okay. So for me, this was the second thing that led me to believe, okay, maybe this couple isn't real. So the first thing was, okay, we didn't see any footage of the her being so scared thing. And when they got to the top, she wasn't getting scared, and she was even looking over the balcony. Well, it wasn't a balcony, but y'all know what I'm saying.
mhm,
So that was the first one, but I was like, okay, that's not really convincing, right? If I'm building my case, that was the first one.
mhm,
This is the second one. Because at the table with the girls at the honeymoon, remember she said that she was concerned that he wasn't over the situation. And she was concerned about being the second bride and how much healing he had done, all that stuff. So the fact that she was very understanding, not to say that she can't be understanding, right? But the fact that she was so understanding and didn't even think to say something like, okay, but I do definitely want this to be something that he tells his parents soon. Like, I get that he isn't comfortable telling them yet. And I trust that he'll tell them at the right time. But I also want him to know, like, it's important to me that they know. And it's
mhm.
important to me for this experience that I don't feel like the leftovers. Like, okay, so you were willing to tell them about the first time. Um, Now that you've met me, do you think you can see yourself telling them? I might have been a little bit more concerned. The fact that she wasn't leads me to believe it was a scheme that Todd set up. It was a scheme that the producer set up. Like, none of the couples are working right now. We need you guys to be the understanding couple that the audience can fall in love with.
I will say when he told her that the mom didn't know,
Mhm.
the way she in that moment, not her confessional cam, in
Okay.
that moment, she didn't seem thrilled. She was
Hmm.
just like, "Oh, okay. Okay." Like, it just seemed like she was taking it all in. I
Okay.
didn't get super understanding from that scene. Now, later, I think in the confessional scene, she was just like, "Oh, it's fine. Like,
Hmm.
I'll take his lead in how he wants to handle it." But when
Okay.
he told her, I didn't get like, "Oh, she's okay with it." It
All
seemed like, I don't know about this.
right. Hmm. Fair. I stand by what I think. I stand.
But you know me, I'm all for a conspiracy theory. It all could be fake.
And
These
right, and
two.
it could be the editing. Like, maybe there was more that she said, but because the editors know that this whole season is nonsense,
Hmm.
maybe they're just showing us the positives.
Now, one scene where I can like, this scene, I'm so confused.
The massage.
No, the dinner. We could talk about the massage though
Mhm.
right now, but the dinner scene completely confused me.
With the tears.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, let's get through the massage thing. So I said the conversation they were having was probably so awkward for the massage therapist. And then I said that I would hate to go to a professional like massage therapist and then have them suggest that my spouse, who is the most immature of immatures, give me a back rub. Like, girl, no, give me my full
Mm-mm.
hour. I could get this when we go back to the hotel from him. Like, I would be so pissed. Like, that's not what I'm here for.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to be into her. She
It's
is there.
playing along with it.
Yeah, she's there. He seemed like he would be ready to rumble.
He's a
Um,
better actor than she is.
mm, yeah, maybe more comfortable with the cameras. I don't know, but uh, let's get to this dinner scene
Please.
because I was so confused. Like,
And
I'm like,
this was the nail in the
the coffin?
thank you.
Like, that was a nail in the,
The thing, the
you know. But
yeah,
yeah, I was so confused. She's like, "Oh, this process is just a lot for her. She's overwhelmed. It's terrifying. She don't know if she can do this."
came out of nowhere, it
I,
seemed.
what was the lead up? Is it that you don't know if you can move into the apartment? You don't know if you can be married? And then his response was, I guess, him comforting her.
To put herself first.
But yeah, put you first, boo boo.
It went from her serving like she worked at your, local fine dining establishment
Mm-hmm.
to tears real fast.
What was the lead up? Why are you so overwhelmed? What happened between the massage? Because I'm assuming this is the same day. Because I think they only got 1 to 2 days on this honeymoon. So
Yeah.
what happened in that time period for her to be so overwhelmed? She admits to shutting down and can sometimes do it just enough so the other person feels uncomfortable. I'm like, I feel like I'm reading a poem that's missing lines.
Thank you.
Y'all tell us in the comments, what did we miss?
This did it for me, and then the tears and his response, it just feels like they've been set up to be the couple that is so understanding of each other's needs. Like, yeah, there are obstacles, but we're overcoming them.
And why does she seem to be so enthralled with him encouraging her to put her first?
Yeah,
Why? What did he do? What big decision do you need to make?
it was really
Why does he need to say, "Oh, well, I need you to do what's best for you"? Best about what?
so Chloe was on the after party. But
Mm-hmm.
Imma just go quickly to the mom thing. So Keisha asked a question like, "Oh, how did you feel about his mom not knowing?" And so, Keisha, Austin, and Chloe are like cackling about, that's his family, da da da.
Mm-hmm.
And Emily she wasn't even asked a question. Well, I just feel like he's a grown man, and that would bother me that he can't tell his mom about you. Like, you're a grown man, you decided to do this process, and so that would bother me. And so Keisha Knight Pulliam was like, okay, so Emily, like, what do you think of, Chloe's reaction to whatever? And she goes, well, I think that says something positive about you, that you were able to be as understanding about it and whatever. So she was nice about it,
Mm-hmm.
question mark, when they asked her about, yeah, but she was very anxious to say what she wanted to say and how, like, she thinks that's a sign of immaturity that he's doing that. I'm like, I thought y'all liked Michael. Like, why is he now
What
getting some
happened?
smoke? Yeah, we need the finale. Honestly, they could wrap up this season, make decision week next week, and then
Mm-hmm.
give us like maybe 2 weeks of the reunion, and I'd be satisfied.
I would say too, like, say this isn't a fake storyline. Say this is real under that assumption. If it's real, I do feel bad for Chloe.
Hmm.
Not that Michael's a bad guy, but I'm already taking the risk getting married at first sight. I didn't sign up to get married at first sight with all
Drama.
these other complications and drama.
Mm,
Like, I just want to, if you've watched all the previous seasons of Married at First Sight, they've never done anything like this.
mhm.
So why would she go into it thinking anything different? It's already a crazy enough process, but then
Yep,
it's all of this. I will say Michael seems like a nice guy, assuming this is real.
really
He
is.
seems genuine. He's asking the right questions. He wants her to be comfortable. He's saying all the right things. The scene ends with him holding her, um, comforting her. Are they going to move in together?
Yeah, it's
Confusion.
it gives me staged, and I don't know how much of that I can stomach for the rest of the season.
Y'all let us know in the comments. Do y'all think that Married at First Sight is really playing in our faces and this is a whole stage couple? I thought from the beginning that his first wedding was staged, but then there was some proof put out there that there was a first bride, and
Mhm.
so, okay,
Backed out.
that wasn't staged, but here we are almost at the end of the season. How are they even gonna wrap this up if they're just getting from their honeymoon?
Anyway, so that's those are our thoughts on this episode. You guys can watch our Am I the A-hole videos. Someone
Mhm,
suggested that we do a subreddit
mhm,
so that if you guys want to submit stuff for Am I the A-hole and we respond like to you guys, but it's anonymous, you can do that. So we'll look into it and maybe do that. But you guys can always email us at girlfriendsandgoalspodcast@gmail.com
mhm.
or send us a DM on Instagram at girlfriends and goals podcast. And we'll definitely respond. All right. See
Yep.
you guys on the next video. Bye.
Bye.